Thank you, everybody. Okay. Great to look out there and see your happy, hopefully happy faces. I do see some smiles this morning. Yes, welcome, everybody. Always good to be in this place with your community, and also because this is just such a beautiful place here. I've done many weddings here. One time I did a wedding, and we did it outside, and the whole time of the ceremony, there was a bald eagle sitting at the top of one of the pine trees. And after the ceremony, I said to the bride and groom, "Do you have any idea of the powerful sign that is for you?" Yes. And so we are in a time where it would behoove all of us to rekindle, awaken, and strengthen our heart of our contemporary mystic. And I'm going to unpack for you in this talk what that means. There's several elements to it. The element of the heart, and what is a mystic, and what does it mean to be a contemporary mystic. So I have a couple of quotes from very powerful spiritual teachers that we'll begin with. One spiritual teacher who you may not know, David Spangler, he has been a spiritual teacher since 1965. He started when he was very young. And he's the one who really introduced me to my subtle companion, the She, S-I-D-H-E, companion that I've been working with for 20 years. And what David Spangler says is the magic of incarnation lies in our being a generative source and in our ability to connect with the world, to bring new instances of wholeness into manifestation. These two things form the foundation of our power to be a presence of sacredness in the world. And that, in a thumbnail sketch, is what it means to be a mystic and a contemporary mystic. Because the two elements of being a generative source and finding ways to manifest or birth wholeness into our world has never been more important than it is now. I'm sure you've all noticed we are in a very interesting time now. That's a good word to use for it. Because this time that we're living in has probably the most of the greatest and most incredible and the most of the most confounding, I love that word, things that are going on now. And so we as conscious adults oftentimes stand in the midst of this chaos and say, how do I navigate this? How can I be a presence of sacredness when there's all this craziness going on? And there is a lot of craziness going on. Never before in recorded human history, we don't know what happened before recordings, but in recorded human history, there has never been a time where there has been such rapid, exciting, and shocking changes going on, especially those of us who are in the 40 and older age range, that we did not grow up with the technological stuff that's going on now. The younger kids, that's what they know. For me, it's like a foreign language. Oh, interpret this for me, please. So how do we rebirth every day that knowing within us that we are sacred beings living in this universe and hoping to be a generative source of bringing wholeness every day into the universe? So let's talk first about that idea of sacred. There's a continuum. And on one end, we live in a dual universe, north and south, hot and cold, yin and yang. And so we have sacred and profane. And we see a lot of profane in our world because that's what the media likes to show us because it's so sensational. We don't always see a lot of the sacred unless we come to groups like this. And that's why we need these groups, these experiences, to cultivate our inner sense of sacred. Like Jaron's saying, it is within. Yes, we come to communities, spiritual communities. We can even go to particular places on earth, what they call sacred places. Those places are valuable because they resonate at a frequency which helps us to remember and regenerate our own source of sacredness. But we do not get the sacredness from out there and put it in. Sacredness is an inside job. We generate it and bring it out. And truly, that is the greatest gift you could ever give the world. You are the gift and you are the giver. And the gift is your sacredness and your wholeness that you cultivate within and bring it to the world. And so what is sacredness, actually? And that's what a mystic, the definition of a mystic, is a person who is very focused on cultivating sacredness within. We think of mystics as monks or yogis who go into isolation, and truly to cultivate that deep, deep sense of sacredness, we do need that quiet, that stillness, that solitude. So in this contemporary time, we are being called, as never before, to be monks without a monastery. Used to be, if you were called to a life of the sacred, you would go into a monastery or a group of yogis, and your earthly needs, your food and shelter, would be provided for you by that monastery. That's not the case now. Yes, there are still those people who do that, thankfully, but more of us are being called because we need to create a critical mass of this kind of sacred consciousness now. So more of us are being called in a regular life to become monks without a monastery. And that means that we do a normal life. We have a career, we have family, we have all the trappings of a normal life, and yet we have this inner pull to find time in our busy and complicated lives to carve out that solitude time to go within and cultivate and share our sacredness. So what is sacredness? Sacredness is our divinity. Sacredness is that part of us, and there's a lot of other parts, but that part of us that came from the divine, from the infinite. It's that spark that never can be extinguished. It's that part of us that never can be defiled by any experience in life, no matter how challenging. And so it is up to us to remember that we are generative. We live in this field of infinite divine creativity. We are swimming like fish in this field. And we manifested out of this field. Before we incarnated into these bodies, we were a potentiality in this infinite field of divine creativity. And then, boom, we became a body. And here we are. So what does that mean? That means we are all of the qualities of this infinite divine field that we live and move and have our being within. Now, a lot of people don't remember that. We come to these places and form spiritual communities to constantly remind ourselves of that, because influences outside of us tell us a whole lot of other things that don't align with that. And I'm wondering, how many of you were brought up by parents who told you you were a divine, sacred being and that every thought and feeling could generate? I see you shaking your head. No, I wasn't either. I wasn't told that my spirit is sacred, that my body is sacred, that, oh my God, my sexuality is sacred. I was not told that, and I don't think a lot of other of us were told that, but that is what our essential, most basic truth is. And so to live a life where we can stand unshakable with no fear, while there's all kinds of craziness and chaos going on around us, even sometimes happening to us, things like falling and breaking your hip and having an illness or loss of a loved one. I mean, these are things that happen right here in our lives. And we need that foundation that we can stand strong, unshakable, with no fear, even when it looks crazy out there. And so we choose. Choice is our most important power as humans, as spiritual beings having a human experience. So we can choose on this continuum of sacredness and profane. We, in every moment, get to choose what we want to generate. And that's our greatest power, is that power of choice. And sometimes I have to remind myself minute by minute, why are you thinking that? Come back. Why is that making me feel bad? Come back to center. This is the process of continually choosing sacredness over profanity. And so another quote I want to share with you from Jean Houston, another wonderful teacher. The raptures of the deep are our native equipment, granted us by our cosmic origins. The only requirement is joy and a willingness to say yes to the new epic that dawns in you and me and those fortunate to be alive in this great today. And that is from her book called Jump Time. Jump time is what we're in now. We are making a great leap in consciousness. And that's why it's important for all of us to cultivate our sacredness so that we generate this tipping point where the collective consciousness will be raised, and hopefully there will be a lot less craziness going on. And so to get to that point, we have to ignite our heart, because the collaboration of heart and brain is most important, and our culture has not emphasized that. Our culture emphasizes the importance of intellect and what we perceive with our five senses. That's what's real, right? Anything else is not real, unless you're a multi-sensory person and you can sense other dimensions other than what the five senses can tell you. And I'm sure everybody in this room knows what I'm talking about, or you probably wouldn't be here. So it's up to us to, again, stand in that heartfulness, because when we need guidance, when we need to make a decision, We need the collaboration of intellect and wisdom. Wisdom lives in the heart and the gut. They've even discovered that there are neurological cells in the heart and in the gut. So we think, feel, and remember with our entire bodies, our entire being, not just the brain. The brain is fabulous, and it's part of our being. And our highest ability to sense other people, places, and things, and what is truth, comes from our heart, that truth meter, or the BS meter. And that heart will tell you if what is coming to you, be that a conversation from a person or a decision you need to make, the heart, when you open it and listen to it, will show you and tell you by your feeling, by your visceral, it's called gut feeling, what the truth is and what is best for you. That's your inner wisdom. And the inner wisdom is part of the sacredness. Because sometimes when inner wisdom gives guidance, there have been times when I've said, "Are you sure? That is not what I pictured at all." And when that happens, you know that's your inner wisdom, because it's not what your brain said. And if you can trust, if you can surrender and listen and honor to that inner wisdom, your sacred self, you will find that it will never steer you wrong. Even if it's a risk, even if it's a challenge to take that step into the unknown, your soul speaks through your heart, not your intellect, not your brain. And that's one of the big reasons for meditation and going into your stillness. Because the brain wants to think. It thinks all the time. That's what it does. The ego does that. We need that part of ourselves. And we need the part of ourselves in our heart space that is still and quiet, to hear that still small voice of the infinite I am that wants to lead us. So the meditation is about quieting the chattery mind. I'll probably never make it go away, but what I do tell my ego is get out of the driver's seat, get in the back seat, and I let my heart, my soul, be in the driver's seat. Sometimes I have to say that minute by minute. Back seat. Because we don't want to get rid of the ego. We need that. It protects us. It helps us. But we need it to be aligned. That's part of the alignment of heart and head, to create this feeling of coherence, which allows us to stand strong in the face of challenges and chaos. So the question begs, who am I? And this is your choice that you awaken with every day. Who am I going to generate my being as today? Again, we have the continuum, sacred, profane, and everything in the middle. And so when you sit with that question of who am I, and that changes and evolves, it's fluid, it's not something static and concrete. It should be fluid according to where you are in life right now. But know that every other question that you ask yourself about anything in life will ultimately be based in the foundation of what you decide when you ask yourself that question, who am I? Am I the infinite divine expressing? Or am I a victim? Or am I sabotaging myself? Or am I selling out my soul for comfort? And we all have all these potentialities. We've probably all experienced all of those experiences, which is why we're here on this earth, to experience. And so it all comes back to your choice of who you decide, who am I? And let that be your foundation, your rock that you return to again and again and again. When you find yourself, oh, I'm over here and I'm playing victim now. No, let me get back to my alignment with my intention of being the sacred being. So I've mentioned meditation a few times. Several years ago when I used to do the meditation at Center for Positive Living, so many people asked me, oh, please make a recording, please. So I finally did. I made a CD of meditations, and when I was trying to think of what to call it, my subtle companion, Ron Wynn, who I put my name on here as Rev Jacquie Riker because anytime I speak or do meditations, it's mostly Ron Wynn who's coming through. We named this CD The Song of the Sacred. Now, the downside of that is many people think I'm singing on here. Oh, my gosh. No, you would not want that. But spoken guided meditations. And the subtitle is, You Are the Singer, and You Are the Song. This is your sacredness. So this meditation CD has several short 10 to 12 minute meditations on it. The first one is about grounding, feeling connected to earth and to nature. And then there's one about awakening your heart. And there's some other ones, but they're short. You don't have to sit for a whole hour. You can do 10 or 12 minutes. I've got them for sale back on the table, $5, bargain price. And that's a good way to start a practice of centering, to bring yourself into coherence so that you can make the choice of standing unshakable with no fear and align your heart with your intellect, with your brain. So this is part of what it means to be a mystic without a monastery, and it is a great gift for yourself to live life in this way. And when you do, when you are coherent and aligned, you become a change agent. You become a powerful force in the earth to bring the frequency of this kind of vibrational living to other people. You don't have to be a teacher. You don't have to write a book. It's just every person that you come in contact with when you're vibrating at this resonance. You give them permission on some level. They may not even consciously know it, but will feel on a deep level the permission for themselves to enter into their own sacred lives. And this is a really powerful way to bring change to the world. It's being active, but it's being active in the subtle realms of energy. So it's called subtle activism. A couple quotes, one of my favorites, two of my favorites, from the Gospel of Thomas, if you've read that, one of the Gospels that were recently found. Be still and know I am God. The knowing of that I am, of the divine, happens when we're still, not when we're rushing around multitasking, trying to be competitive or trying to get stuff. That being still and the knowing of the I am happens within and can drop us into that deep sacred place of our knowing. Another saying that is attributed to Jesus from the Gospel of Thomas is, and I'm going to bring it into contemporary language, if your eye is single, your entire body will be filled with light. Well, first of all, our bodies are made of light. I know it doesn't look like it sometimes, but it's the light energy. And to have your eyes single means your focus, what you are focused on, and where you put your energy, because whatever you focus on is where your energy goes. And so to have your light be powerful and bright, bring that focus back to your sense of sacredness. So I will leave you with something that came to me, I'm sure through Ron Wynn, about your sacred truth. In the quiet of my heart, I know peace. In the stillness of my soul, I become my greatest truth. Breathe that in and fill yourself with your own divinity. Connect yourself with the divinity that is all around you in the form of people, buildings, nature. We are surrounded and enfolded by the divine in every moment. And when we become coherent in ourselves and generate the sacredness that we are, we create that experience for ourselves and for the earth. And so it is.